This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Mourning the passing of a strong voice for faith and family. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. A well-respected member of America's Christian community has passed away. Dr. James Dobson, founder of the Focus on the Family Christian Ministry and former advisor to 5 U.S. presidents, has died at 89. Family Life airs Focus on the Family weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Dobson, a psychologist widely regarded as one of the most influential Christian leaders of the past half-century, passed away this morning. In an interview that aired a year ago, Dr. Dobson expressed thankfulness for a blessed life.
My life has been full, more than I can tell you. But more than that, my life has been full of love. I've had a loving family. I've had a lot of love from people that I don't even know. I've had more good things.
He is survived by his wife of 64 years, Shirley, their 2 children and 2 grandchildren. Dr. James Dobson, gone to glory at age 89. Our other top story this day, packing a distant punch. Even though Hurricane Erin's eye is more than 200 miles east of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, she's still packing a wallop up and down the East Coast. This New Jersey shoreline homeowner has some experience with this kind of situation, telling CBS.
Prior to Sandy, there were large boulders, if you will. They cemented all the stones and they built this. So there's a really nice barrier between the ocean and our homes.
Sandy struck there more than a decade ago, causing widespread damage. Fox Weather's Mike Seidel just about took off along the shore of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina this morning.
We've had wind gusts here 45 miles an hour. Down at Cape Hatteras, they've gusted to 51. The highest gust we've seen is way offshore at the Hatteras buoy, 175 miles offshore. Earlier this morning, an 85-mile-an-hour wind gust and wave heights at 45 feet. Those waves now have dropped off to 24 to 25 feet.
Our own Kevin Williams says Erin isn't expected to have any impact on our region. His forecast for your area is just ahead. Next to Texas, where they finally had that vote.
88 ayes and 52 nays. House Bill 4 is finally passed.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is praising Republican lawmakers there for passing a plan to redraw congressional maps. The new maps would give Republicans 5 more seats in the U.S. House. Texas Republican Rep. Todd Hunter.
We are allowed to draw congressional districts on the basis of political performance.
Democrats did not take the vote result well.
Today, Governor Abbott sold our state capital to Donald Trump. And as a native Texan, it's a dark day in Texas history.
Next up is the Texas State Senate. In a statement last night, Abbott said he will sign the bill when it reaches his desk. European leaders discussing ways to protect Ukraine after the Russian invasion comes to an end. William Denislow reports that President Trump has called for security guarantees as part of any deal to end the war.
The US has ruled out sending forces to Ukraine, dismissed the notion of NATO membership, and suggests it seeks to play a minimal role in providing Kyiv with lasting security. Some European allies have suggested the possibility of a reassurance force.
Russia's foreign minister says Moscow has to be part of any international talks on Ukrainian security after fighting ceases. Meantime, even as talks continue to end the invasion, Moscow continues to pound Ukraine.
This was one of the biggest bombardments of the war, another assault aimed at overwhelming Ukrainian air defenses. It comes as Kyiv's allies ramp up discussions about potential security guarantees for Ukraine in the event of peace.
The BBC's Danny Eberhardt. D.C. cracked down a thong of protesters chanting slogans as Vice President J.D. Vance thanked National Guard and police at Union Station in D.C. on Wednesday. Vance praised law enforcement and said violent crime has dropped by 35%. Protesters see it differently, but says Vance,
we've seen a 35% reduction in violent crime. We've seen over a 50% reduction in robberies. You can actually bring law and order to communities. You just got to have the political willpower to do it.
D.C. will be putting in a special youth curfew zone beginning tonight. The Federal Trade Commission is suing a popular fitness outlet.
Let's keep running, kicking, and jumping to our heart's content.
The operators of LA Fitness are being sued by the FTC, which says the company and its subsidiaries make it nearly impossible for customers to cancel memberships and related services. The agency also says Fitness International illegally charged customers hundreds of millions of dollars in unwanted recurring fees because of the cancellation difficulties. The FTC is working to stop the company from those practices and to get some customers' money back. CVS's health pharmacy benefit manager, Caremark, has to pay almost $290 million for overcharging Medicare for prescriptions more than 10 years ago. A federal judge gave the order this week after the company was found liable in June. And pick up a good book lately? Seems these days not many people are.
The University of Florida study found daily reading for pleasure has dropped 40% over the last 20 years and could be due to the rise of digital media, less leisure time, and less access to books and libraries.
That's CBS's Michael George. Still to come here on the Noon Report, the high cost of housing, yet another dangerous illegal drug making the rounds, and Erie, PA set to become the center of the sailing world.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, looking at a clearing trend that'll tee up some nice weather as we end the work week and begin the weekend. Forecast details are coming up in 10.
All right, we'll look for that, Kevin. Thank you very much. Now, checking the stories making news where you live in New York and Pennsylvania. A new poll from Cornell University says New Yorkers cite the high cost of housing in the Empire State as their biggest financial threat.
79.6, so basically 80% of New Yorkers overall said the cost of living or housing is what's holding their household back from achieving the quality of life that they'd like to achieve.
Russell Weaver is the director of research.
When we asked folks how their household financial situation was doing now relative to 1 year ago, only 11% said that they're better off. The plurality, 45%, said they're worse off.
Heating costs are also up, as well as essential goods like food. People attending a Disney show at Buffalo's KeyBank Center this week got one more surprise than they might have expected. A burst sprinkler had fans noticing water trickling from the ceiling before the show. Well, that trickle turned into a deluge, and then the water damage eventually caused part of the ceiling high overhead to fall, crashing onto the floor close to where fans were standing in a merchandise line. No one was injured, thankfully. Center management still looking into exactly what happened and making some repairs. A happy homecoming at the Niagara Falls Air Force Reserve Base yesterday. 80 reservists returning home after months overseas. Among them, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Abels. He tells WGRZ,
"We've been envisioning this since the day we left. The challenges change for everyone depending on where you are in life. I have kids now who are old enough to know that Daddy is gone, and this is the first time that I've had a deployment like that."
The returning reservists are members of the 914th Air Refueling Wing, which specializes in air refueling and airlift missions. Hey, want to buy a dorm? Central New York's Tompkins Cortland Community College is looking to sell off 3 former residence halls that lay empty, a sign of decreased enrollment that's now common on many campuses around the country. TC3 President Amy Kremenek tells WBNG selling them makes some long-term fiscal sense for the school.
There's still operational costs to operating the buildings, both in terms of utilities and upkeep, maintenance. One of the things that we take really serious as a college is that we want to be sure that our buildings are as up to date as they can possibly be for our students.
Proceeds from any sales would be used to pay off the financing of the buildings. The Pennsylvania Attorney General has put out an alert on a deadly drug called designer Xanax. We get the story on that from Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
Attorney General Dave Sunday joined a coalition of 19 states calling on the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration to take action on the drug Bromazepam, an unregulated designer drug that's potent, unpredictable, and doesn't respond to naloxone, the drug used to reverse opioid overdoses. Sunday says when Bromazepam appeared in Pennsylvania in 2022, there were 59 overdose deaths. That figure tripled a year later. He says it's a race to stay ahead of traffickers and synthetic drugs in the Keystone State. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah. Most students in Pennsylvania head back to school this week or next. Local districts are stepping up security in some new ways, from cameras to security checks. Windber Superintendent Mike Vukovich spoke with WJAC.
If you look, since 2018, there's been over 200 school shootings. In the year 2024, I believe there's been 38 school shootings, and fast forward to 2025, since January 1, there's been 7. So it's constantly on our mind to help prepare families, students, and staff to keep safe.
Meantime, State College Area High School is now conducting random searches.
We'll be using metal detectors as a screening tool to quickly search students and have staff assist with searching bags.
And Altoona's Superintendent Brad Hatch says the district there spent $1 million on security camera upgrades and screenings at the door.
Every one of our secondary students goes through a safety check at arrival in the morning where their belongings and their persons go through metal detector and wands.
The state's anonymous tip line, Safe to Say Something, has seen a more than 50% increase in reports this school year compared to the previous one. While next year's Watkins Glen International race is moving. Not locations, mind you, but there is a big shift in dates from the current late summer to spring. Next year's NASCAR event, which draws about 100,000 race fans to the Finger Lakes, will be held May 8th to the 10th, with the Cup Series race known as Go Bowling at the Glen be held on Sunday, Mother's Day. NASCAR's weekend in the Glen hasn't been this early on the calendar since its return in 1986, though last year it was held in September as part of the NASCAR playoffs. Now, the eyes of the sailing world will be on Erie, Pennsylvania, starting later today as it hosts Tall Ships Erie 2025 at Dobbins Landing and the Bayfront Convention Center.
This one weekend, we are the center of tall ships and sail training in this country, and we can highlight how amazing of a place Erie is.
That's Captain Billy Sabatini, who coordinates the event. He says one of the highlights happens at 3 p.m. That's the procession of 9 tall ships sailing into Erie Harbor. The parade of sail will be led by Erie's own 1893 schooner, the Letty G. Howard. Their captain, Griffin Hayes, tells Erie News Now.
To be the leader and to represent our hometown and show it off to not only the city, but all these other ships from all around the country and sometimes even Canada, it's just amazing.
Sabatini says even if you've been there before, Tall Ships Erie is worth checking out again.
This is Erie. We are a maritime city. Embrace it.
The city strongly suggests you also embrace parking off-site and riding one of the frequent shuttle buses to and from the waterfront. Well, they don't call them the Bronx Bombers for nothing. Here's Randy with a check of sports.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Mark, the Yankees' bats are booming. They hit 5 more home runs last night. That ties a major league record, 14 homers in 2 games, and they needed the long ball. Giancarlo Stanton hit a pinch hit 2-run shot in the top of the 10th. Austin Wells followed that with his second home run of the night. And the Yankees outlasted the Rays 6-4. Trent Grisham also went yard twice. So this marked the first time in Yankees history that multiple players hit multiple home runs in consecutive games. The Mets' 3-game winning streak is over. The Nationals beat them despite a Brett Beatty home run. Final 5-4. Phillies won their 4th in a row, sweeping the Mariners in a dominant 11-2 victory. Kyle Schwarber, boy, that guy's been something. He hit his National League leading 45th home run and drove in 5. Trey Turner, 5 hits. He drove in a pair. Max Kepler had 3 hits with the home run. Jose Luzardo struck out 12 in 6 innings, allowing just 1 run on 3 hits. Yeah, domination. Tommy Pham drove in a pair of runs in the first inning with a double, and that was Pittsburgh's entire offense. But Johan Oviedo and the Pirates bullpen made it stand up. They won it 2-1 over the Blue Jays. Elsewhere, the Tigers swept the Astros with a 7-2 victory. The D-backs came back with a tying home run in the 9th, and then a game-winning RBI single in the 10th to down the Guardians 3-2. Texas doubled up Kansas City 6-3. The A's 4-2 winners over the Twins. Cubs edge the Brewers 4-3. Miami, Colorado, San Diego, Atlanta, and the Angels, your other winners. That is a look at sports.
All right, thank you very much, Randy. Still to come here on the Family Life Noon Report, remembering Dr. James Dobson, weathering the effects of Hurricane Erin, and some wacky new words to get to know.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In a recent guest essay in the New York Times, 3 medical doctors proposed a solution for the lack of suitable organs available for transplant in the United States. Because an estimated 15 people die every day waiting for a transplant, they said, quote, we need to broaden the definition of death. Their basic argument is that because the existing medical definition of death is too narrow, good organs are left on the table. Most organs donated for transplant can only be taken from someone who's clinically dead, meaning the person's heart has not stopped or there is no brain activity even when the heart continues. The crisis, say the authors, is because there are too many viable organs damaged by a lack of blood flow, and not enough people are dying with an active heart but a dead brain. Thus, they argue, and I quote, the solution, we believe, is to broaden the definition of brain death to include irreversibly comatose patients on life support. Using this definition, these patients would be legally dead regardless of whether a machine restored the beating of their heart, end quote. In other words, people in so-called irreversible comas should be considered dead, so that, as long as a person had consented to donate their organs, and I quote again here, removal could proceed without delay, end quote. Now, not only are the authors here asking all of us to ignore the countless accounts of miraculous cases in which people have emerged from comas thought to be irreversible, but also the many cases in which patients have been rushed to death in order to secure their organs. And they're also asking us to ignore the movies. Back in 1978, Michael Crichton, author of Jurassic Park, directed a TV movie called Coma. It starred Michael Douglas. In it, a young medical student discovered that otherwise healthy young people were slipping into comas. The cause was a group of doctors that were hoping to harvest their organs and who used many of the same arguments that were offered in the New York Times piece. As a whistleblower from the UK warned on X, in a post that also featured an interview that's worth watching with Dr. Paul Byrne, and I quote here, you cannot take organs from a cadaver. The best organ donors have a beating heart, a circulation under 30 years old, and ideally on a ventilator. Basically, someone is being murdered to give someone else organs. The entire brain dead scenario is a lie, end quote. Now, ethical scenarios like this were completely unthinkable until quite recently in human history. Until just a few decades ago, broken or diseased organs basically meant a death sentence. There wasn't much doctors could do. It was in 1967 that doctors first pulled off the heart transplant. And since then, thousands of lives have been saved through the transplantation of hearts and other organs. And yet somehow, over the past few decades, this groundbreaking and remarkable life-saving medical innovation has become a crisis. The ability to transplant organs has become a shortage of organs. Because there are more people that can be saved, we're now told there are more people who need to die. These doctors aren't the first ones to make the horrific suggestion that we should pronounce alive people dead, nor will they be the last. Christians who believe that God makes dead people alive should be the very first to speak out and to point to a better way. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Today's Breakpoint was co-authored by Dr. Timothy Paget. A special thanks today to Amy of Wichita, Kansas, for being a Cornerstone monthly partner of the Colson Center. You helped make this episode of Breakpoint possible. For a version of this commentary that you can print out or share online with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
All right, let's check in now with meteorologist Kevin Williams.
A very good afternoon to all. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for this afternoon. Cloud cover beginning to break for some sun in places. There can also be a little sprinkle or light shower in a couple spots. High temps 70s. It'll clear out tonight. A little fog in the valleys late, cool, comfortably so, low in the 50s. Then a good deal of sunshine and warming up tomorrow and Saturday. High tomorrow, 70s to near 80, low 80s for high temperatures. Then on Saturday, showers and rumbles are back Saturday night and Sunday.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster. Thank you again for joining us. Let's recap a few of the top stories this day. The top one, mourning the passing of a strong voice for faith and family. Focus on the Family founder, Dr. James Dobson, passed away this morning at age 89. In this interview, which aired about a year ago, he was nothing but thankful for an amazing life.
God has poured it all out on me. I've had an opportunity to get a good education. I've had all kinds of opportunities to do creative things. I've had travel. I've got a wonderful wife that I love like crazy. 2 children and 2 grandchildren, and there's love everywhere. I worry a little bit about getting to heaven and the Lord saying, "Son, you've had your share," because I have.
That's Dr. James Dobson, gone to heaven at age 89. Hurricane Erin headed away from the North Carolina coast this morning, but it's bringing issues up and down the East Coast as it leaves. This woman at Topsail Beach in North Carolina concerned to see people still ignoring warnings against swimming in the surf.
It's a little rough, and I know there's warnings everywhere to stay out of the water.
North Carolina Governor Josh Stein.
It's a serious storm, and conditions can deteriorate quickly.
He'll get no argument from Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin on the tropical storm conditions his state is braced for.
What does that mean? Incredibly dangerous riptides, very strong surf, and, of course, tidal flooding.
It's about 200 miles southeast of Cape Hatteras right now, still headed northeast away from the coast. New York Governor Kathy Hochul pledging to retaliate against President Trump and the Republican redistricting in Texas. Texas Republican Rep. Todd Hunter.
While there's no guarantee of an electorate success, Republicans will now have an opportunity to potentially win these districts.
Texas Democratic Rep. Trey Martinez.
You may win today, but we will have our opportunity in federal court. You know it is wrong.
Next up is the Texas State Senate. Israel moving to take over all of Gaza. The sound of IDF shelling as they look to end Hamas's chokehold on Gaza. The BBC's Jolan Nell.
The military announced that it had begun the first stage of the attack. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, said he was shortening the timelines for seizing what he described as the last terror strongholds in Gaza.
And finally, some health news for you. Well, of course, no one likes to be in pain, but researchers say there are important differences in types of pain at the molecular level.
British scientists writing in the medical journal Nature say they've discovered a molecule shared by people suffering from chronic pain that is not present in people experiencing other types of pain. Team leader David Bennett.
The work starts now on developing drugs to target this specific molecule.
CBS's Vicki Barker reporting. You're listening to the Noon Report on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnish, and with me today, Focus on the Family political writer Zachary Mettler. We're talking defunding Planned Parenthood. This is part 2 of a 2-week series because the topic is so critical. There are twin lawsuits against the defunding of the nation's largest abortion provider. The second lawsuit brought by more than 23 states that want to protect the federal cash flowing to Planned Parenthood. Zach, can you tell me what's going on?
Yeah, there's 23 states that have filed this lawsuit that somehow this defunding provision of Planned Parenthood is unconstitutional. They filed that lawsuit. They were led by Attorney General Letitia James from New York. They filed that lawsuit also in the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. And there's 11 judges on the district court that can hear cases. And whenever a lawsuit is filed in one of those courts, it's supposed to be assigned to a random judge. And again, there's 11 judges. But the second Planned Parenthood lawsuit was also assigned to Judge Talwani, who was the judge in the first case. And so what are the odds of that happening? I don't know, but it does seem a little coincidental that both lawsuits, one from Planned Parenthood and one from the attorneys general, alleging that this provision to funding Planned Parenthood is unconstitutional, has gone to the same judge. And so we'll see where that one lays out.
Abortions aren't the only thing that Planned Parenthood is doing. Talk to me about their work with the transgender movement.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I think most people probably don't realize, and it's honestly a new occurrence. You know, you don't think of transgender procedures like puberty-blocking drugs or opposite-sex hormones, which really harm our children. You don't think about Planned Parenthood being a distributor of those things, but they are. They've gotten into this business in recent years. Planned Parenthood is now our nation's second largest provider of hormone therapy to adolescents. A study by the Manhattan Institute, they found that nearly 40,000 people went to Planned Parenthood for opposite-sex hormones in 2023 alone, and about 40% of those individuals were between the ages of 18 and 22. So you have adolescents and young adults who are now flocking funding to Planned Parenthood to get transgender procedures that harm and mutilate their bodies. And what that has to do with parenthood, I have no idea, right? It doesn't have anything to do with parenthood, but Planned Parenthood has decided that they've got to get into this business, I think for some extra cash. Planned Parenthood, their financial numbers are absolutely crazy.
What happens next?
I think in terms of the lawsuit, hopefully, again, the First Circuit will strike down a lawsuit by Judge Indira Talwani. I think they'll overrule her, I hope. And if not, then I think that lawsuit needs to be quickly appealed to the Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court has to step in and say that, no, judges cannot overrule the will of the American people. This defunding Planned Parenthood provision has been advocated for by pro-life activists for years. It's been enacted by an act of Congress. It is now the law. It was signed by the president, and Congress absolutely has the right and the ability to fund or defund whatever they choose. This is really Congress's prerogative, right? Under the Constitution, under Article 1, Section 9, Congress has the power of the purse. They're able to fund or not fund whatever they so choose. And so to have one single district judge out of 700 of them saying that Congress doesn't have the ability to defund Planned Parenthood is absolutely crazy, and I hope it's overturned very quickly.
Why is a win in court so critical to the pro-life cause?
That's a great question. A win in court is super critical because Planned Parenthood, again, they receive about $800 million of taxpayer money every single year, and that subsidizes their business, killing 400,000 preborn children. Planned Parenthood is an abortion business. They performed, again, over 400,000 abortions last year. That was an increase of 10,000 from the previous year, an increase of 23% from 2013. And, for every abortion they provide, they only refer for adoption. 187 abortions is one adoption referral. And we've also seen total services from Planned Parenthood since 2013 have dropped 10%. Cancer screenings and prevention services have dropped 54%, including declines of 61% for breast exams and 54% for Pap tests. And prenatal services are also down 63%. So Planned Parenthood, they keep doing less and less services, less and less actual health care, and more abortions. And every single dollar that Planned Parenthood gets subsidizes their abortion business. And so it's a really important thing for the authority of Congress to be recognized, to be able to defund Planned Parenthood. And I also hope that legislators next year, because this lawsuit has really just tried to stall Congress's ability to defund Planned Parenthood, I hope legislators next year will defund Planned Parenthood for at least one more year, right? I think they have to add that provision into next year's budget bill because of the legal shenanigans, if you will, that Planned Parenthood is pulling here.
It seems like it's a critical moment in history as well. I mean, the chess pieces are lined up on the chessboard. You've got a conservative president who is not supportive of abortion. You've got a conservative Congress. You've got a conservative Supreme Court. We've had many favorable pro-faith rulings in the last couple of months. And it's like everything is lined up. We've waited decades for some of this to be dialed back in the United States, and we actually have a chance to do it right now with everything. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. For the pro-life movement, in terms of defunding Planned Parenthood, this is really a now or never moment. We either defund Planned Parenthood now, this year, and hopefully again next year, or it will probably never, ever happen. I think this is why this moment is so crucial. I think this comes back down to a question of who rules, right? Do the American people rule themselves through their elected representatives and through the president, or do federal judges rule the American people and they decide where our taxpayer dollars can and cannot go? The easy answer for that is that the American people rule themselves. So no, federal judges do not rule us. We direct where our taxpayer dollars go through our elected representatives. That needs to be upheld here in this case. Your and my hard-earned taxpayer dollars are not going to subsidize the abortion business of Planned Parenthood.
Learn more at focusonthefamily.com.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah. Faith Under Fire airs Thursdays during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, or at familylife.org. Just ahead, just what on earth does skibbity mean anyway? That and a bunch of other weird new words coming up.
A very good afternoon to all. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Of course, we're keeping our eyes on Hurricane Erin way out in the Atlantic. The system will have no direct impact on our weather in our region. We are looking, in fact, at higher pressure that will be building in to gradually clear the skies and keep up some very nice weather as we close the work week and begin the weekend. For this afternoon, cloud cover beginning to break for some sun in places. There can also be a little sprinkle or light shower in a couple spots. High temp 70s. It'll clear out tonight. Little fog in the valleys, late cool, comfortably so low in the 50s. Then a good deal of sunshine and warming up tomorrow and Saturday. High tomorrow, 70s to near 80, low 80s for high temperatures. Then on Saturday, some showers and rumbles are back Saturday night and Sunday.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Finally at noon, take it from a Webster. Language is a living, ever-changing thing, and folks at England's Cambridge Dictionary know that well. That's why they recently added 6,000 new words to reflect more modern English. Some of them you know probably, or could at least guess. There's red flag, a sign that something bad's happening or could happen. Green flag, opposite of red flag, easy. And there's work wife or work spouse, describing a close workplace associate. But some of these might not be quite so familiar. There's trad wife, that's shorthand for traditional wife, and inspo, short for inspiration. Snackable, that's not about food, but rather about media content that you can consume in small amounts for a short period of time. Gen Alpha, well, they're youngins born in the 2010s or early 2020s. Delulu, D-E-L-U-L-U, that's a take on the word delusional. Luke, L-E-W-K, a variation on the word look that means a particular style, fashion, or outfit. And finally, we get to skibidi. That's S-K-I-B-I-D-I. It's a nonsensical word coined by a bizarre YouTube series about, would you believe, evil toilets. Skibidi means cool or bad, or as a general exclamation, pretty much it means whatever you really want it to mean. Nonetheless, it earned a place in the Cambridge Dictionary. And that's the ever-changing world we live in for Thursday, August 21st, 2025. As always, we thank you for listening. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
You've been listening to The Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.